playing on your own is incredible and can be super inspiring. But I think when you get in a room with other musicians, that's when some extra layers of magic can happen, and it's a great way to learn.
Hi, and welcome to ForBassPlayersOnly.com. I'm John Leapman, and I help people who want to learn to play bass, but haven't gotten very far with it yet, or at least not far enough. My interview this week is with Shez Raja, incredible bass player from England, and he's got a new album out, which we're going to talk about, and you're going to hear his story. Fascinating interview. But first, if you've ever wanted to learn bass, you should know that right now there are thousands of people inside the For Bass Players Only community, men and women of all ages. And you know what they're doing? They're learning bass. They're having the time of their life playing music that they love. You need to come join them and experience that incredible transformation for yourself. As I always say, you're never too old to groove. So let's play bass. Shez Raja is an Indo-jazz-funk bassist who's collaborated with global jazz music stars, including people that I really admire, Mike Stern, Randy Brecker, and a whole list of others, Dennis Rollins, Dennis Baptiste, Orrin Marshall, Aaron Ghosh, Trilok Gurtu, Wayne Krantz. He's released 7 albums, and his newest album called Spellbound is scheduled for release on June 20th. And I think by the time you're seeing this, I can say it just came out June 20th. It's called Spellbound. Check it out. Here is my interview with Shez Raja. Enjoy. Hello, Shez. It's so good to see you again.
Hi, John. Fantastic to see you again. Thanks so much.
I think we've met a couple of times, both in England. I know we met first at the London Bass Guitar Show in 2017, and that's where we did your previous interview. And then there was another bass gathering in London a couple of years later. I think that's the last time we saw each other.
And always such a wonderful atmosphere at these events. And even with 100 bass players all playing at the same time, different things, it's
No,
such
they're all playing the same thing.
a amazing community, isn't it?
It is. It is. Yes. There's a camaraderie among bass players that I think other instruments just don't have. And at the risk of getting myself in trouble with guitar players, which I don't care, but I have some other sites too. I have a site called ForGuitarPlayersOnly.com. Now, if you have a site called ForBassPlayersOnly.com and you have a guitar player or a guitar interview or something about a guitar, bass players will go, oh, cool, yeah, a guitar player. If you if you have a guitar site and you have a bass player, and what's that bass player doing here? But there is a just a I don't know. I think drummers have some of it too, but there's something about bass players that I find they just want to help each other, just want to reach out, and there's that friendliness and that camaraderie. Not that other instruments don't have that, but we definitely do. We were talking in the first interview. You were telling me about your upbringing and how your dad used to sing ragas around the house and your early influences of music. And I think the Guru Topia album had just come out somewhere around there. And you were telling some great stories about Mike Stern calling you on the phone. Should I do it this way? And he sang something, or should I do it that way? And the Breckers and both Randy and Michael, right? In 2000?
It was just Randy.
Just
Just
Randy.
Randy.
Right.
Yes. Mike, that was the 2016 album, Gootopia. Yeah, they're both incredible.
Great interview. We'll put a link to that in case anybody
Okay.
wants to see that as well. It was a great interview. But that was a few years ago, and I know you've got a new album that's coming out. Actually, I think we're going to try to publish this interview to coincide with the release of your new album, your 8th album called Spellbound, with some of my other heroes. Dennis Chambers, Guthrie Govan, John Etheridge, Rupa Panesar. I'm not as familiar with her, but I know she's an amazing sitarist. Talk about the album. I'm sure you have something that you'd want our audience to know. What's Spellbound all about?
So, John, I guess my organic concept with music has always been blending the sounds of the East with the sounds of the West. And you mentioned earlier about, my father singing ragas around the house. He still does, and that was a huge influence, largely subconsciously, I think, in my formative years. So I've definitely absorbed some of those melodies that sound quite exotic to some ears. And the concept with this album was really to um, go with that East-West sound. But I guess it's my most ambitious project yet. There's 14 musicians from all around the world. And yes, so I just really wanted to, select my very, very favorite musicians from India, Pakistan, but also, UK, US, etc., and see what happens. And it's the results I'm very happy with, and everyone's did an incredible job, and it does really sound magical, I think. So can't wait to share it.
Tell me about the music itself. It sounds like you've got quite a lineup, but I was watching the previous interview this morning and I made note of a couple of things you said. You said you like your music to be raw, real, and from the heart. So I imagine there's some of that in the new album. Is it all original music?
Yes, all original music, John. And I think, just yeah, back to what I said last time. Yeah, I think that's a core philosophy of mine when it comes to creativity and comes to music, about authenticity. So I guess following your emotions, um, reflecting your life experiences, and really playing from the heart, because I think that authenticity really translates to the audience, and that's always going to be you at your best, you in your most unique form of self-expression. And I think that is how you're going to make your most um, engaging contribution to the audience.
Which came first? Did you write the music and then find the right people to play it, or did you decide who you wanted to have on the recording and then write the music for
It
them?
was is a There's a great question, John. So it's a bit of both. It's a bit of both. And I did write a couple of tunes with Dennis Chambers in mind, and uh, he dropped some absolutely epic drum solos on those tunes, Spellbound and Vishnu. And then I guess I wrote, quite a lot of the album, and then the compositions as they were forming sparked ideas of players that I knew of who I thought would work really, really well. So I guess a bit of both, really. It's very organic process with a bit of planning, but a bit of spontaneity in there as well.
The couple of names come to mind when I think of what we're talking about. Duke Ellington, for example, had the advantage of consistency in his band, and he wrote a lot of his music specifically for the people in his band. Or in a different context, Chick Corea. He
Mm.
had Stanley Clark and Allie Mueller and Lenny White. And you know what? I just thought I just remembered I was playing a show one time, and the guitar player, a good friend of mine, to this day, he's still a friend of mine. This was down in Miami, and he was writing some music for a show we were playing, and he knew I would be playing a five-string bass. So he wrote some low C's or D's or
Oh, I see.
whatever it was. But yeah, it's definitely an advantage to have that consistency of band members and to know who you're writing for. Oh, this would be perfect for fill in the blank for so and so.
Absolutely, John. And yeah, with some of these compositions, I was combining artists from quite different backgrounds who've never ever um, played together before or played in this quite in this context, and no one knew what it was going to sound like, and there was a lot of experimentation that went into um, the musician selections, on each of the songs. So, and a good example would be, Dennis Chambers alongside, the tabla player Gurdain Rayat, and it's just a fiesta of rhythm. It's just, yeah, so some real incredible synergies that we found in these quite unique combinations of musicians.
I have a hunch that you didn't have everybody in the room together in one place, that a lot of it was done the way we do things this day and age. But when you said alongside of him, were you speaking figuratively, or did everybody contribute their part from, remotely, or were
Um,
any two people who were in the same place together?
yeah, so myself and Tony Kofi, we had a pretty fiery session, uh, playing at the same time and recording. There was a lot of amazing natural interplay there. But I mean, three of the musicians are based in the Punjab, so they recorded remotely and sent files across. And this is very interesting, John, because in the past, all of my albums have been recorded live. So, well, I've got one live album, but even the studio albums have been in a studio, everyone in the same room, and we basically hit record and start playing. So this is the first album I've produced as part of my own project where we haven't all been in the same room at the same time. So it's fascinating, and I would send drums and bass, to, let's say, the Sarangi player in Lahore, and then he sends his beautiful recording and solos back. And I heard that and I thought, I'm going to re-record my entire bass line again because I'm just suddenly hearing these new sounds, these new colors, and it just generated all these new exciting ideas. So it was there was compositional elements of creativity during the recording process. It was
Was
very
it
interesting.
definitely an advantage to being able to do things that we couldn't do otherwise, or certainly not simply or practically, but you lose some of that. It's funny if you do a lot of what you just said, then you send it back to the person, and that person might want to redo his part or her part. Is it practical at all, or did you even consider trying to do tracks at the same time, even though you were in different locations?
You mean recording at the same time in different locations?
Yeah.
Well, I've tried jamming in different locations, John. I've tried different technologies, different approaches, and there's always a bit of latency. There's always a bit of delay. So I don't know if it's we're not there with the technology, or it could just be physics, which means that will never be possible beyond a certain distance. But yeah, so I couldn't really do that, but it was a fascinating process, a combination of pairs of people recording together in person, but then having people recording remotely and sending tracks through. So it was really fun, and it's something I've not done before in this project. So I think just the presence of that difference in the process did help us produce something quite different in vibe and sound this time around.
That's great. Well, you know what? As far as the latency, somebody will figure out
Oh,
how
I'm
to
sure. I'm
somewhere.
sure.
It's coming. You mentioned, I think it was before I hit record. You said Ronnie Scott's the world-renowned club where my son, my one son is a musician, my other son is not a musician. The one who's not a musician, he had to go to London for something, or actually Derby. It was where
Okay. Yes. Yeah.
it's spelled Derby, but it's pronounced Derby.
Ah,
And when he was in London, I said, "Oh, there's a famous jazz club there, Ronnie Scott's." And he happened to stumble upon it. And he went in and bought me a t-shirt from Ronnie
oh,
Scott's.
great.
Yes.
Great.
But
Fantastic club. Absolutely amazing club. And I love playing at Ronnie Scott's. It's such a fantastic place, and the audiences are incredible. And I love going to Ronnie Scott's and seeing bands there.
yeah,
It's an intimate environment and just world-class sound, as you would imagine. And
I don't
Um,
have to imagine. I've been there. I saw
you've
Robbie
been,
Coltrane play there,
of
and
course. Yes, you know.
the reason I brought it up, you mentioned that you were going to be playing there. Are you just doing some one-offs in the UK, or are you going to do any touring to promote this album? How are you going to get the word out?
Yes, so we're the tour schedule is um, emerging and growing as we speak, but we've got some solid dates. We're playing at the Jazz Cafe in Camden on the 29th of June, which is very exciting. That's already sold out, as is our Bear Club gig in Luton on the 14th of June. And then we've got, as you said, John, well, actually before that, I've got a homecoming show in the Wirral in the northwest of England in July on the 18th. And then back to Ronnie Scott's, we've got two shows, so two houses on the evening of the 17th of September, which I'm really looking forward to. And we're playing London Jazz Festival. We've got a couple of gigs in Soho, London as well, early in the new year. So yeah, lots of exciting dates are popping up all the time. And the live shows, Guthrie Govan is joining me for the majority of them, and we've got Soweto Kinch as well at Ronnie Scott's, and London Jazz Festival. I'll be playing with John Etheridge, who's going to be loads of fun as well, and also Dennis Rollins on trombone. So yeah, really, really exciting set of live shows ahead to look forward to.
How is it being billed? Is it Shez Raja and his band, or that's it? Okay, so that's great. Good for you. Awesome. As if that wasn't enough, what else has been keeping you busy, if anything? Or maybe a few highlights since 2017 or 2019 since we last got together.
Yeah, well, since we last spoke on, so I'm just thinking about it. So obviously we were talking about Utopia
Yes.
last time, and then I released another album, which was a concept album called Journey to Shambhala. I wrote a story about a guy called Raj and his adventure in search of the mystical city of Shambhala, and each story um, provided inspiration for one of the compositions on the album. So I did that album, and then I went over to the Punjab in March 2020, and I really wanted to immerse myself in the musical culture of my roots. And I got together in a studio with some of the individuals who are on Spellbound, actually. But
Excuse me, I need to jump in here. March 2020 was not exactly an ideal time for traveling, let alone international traveling.
I nearly got stranded there. So we recorded for 2 days, and then, of course, countries started locking down. And I moved my flight forward 2 weeks, and it transpired I got the last flight out of there to the UK. And if I hadn't got that flight, I'd have been there for months, probably. But when I got home, I listened to the tapes, and it was just incredible. And as I say, so Asan Papu, the Bansuri bamboo flute player, and also Sahib Hassan, he's a seventh generation sarangi player. And then Fiza Haider, she was 18 years old at the time, as back in 2020. Um, Incredible ethereal singer. Those three guys are on Spellbound. So this album, Spellbound, was very much a natural progression of everything I've done in the past, and an opportunity for me to really max out on that East-West fusion.
That's great. You're really inspiring me because I grew up listening to rock and roll and I love classic rock. I love jazz, pure jazz. But there's so much other music that people all around the world doing some really interesting things. Yeah, you mentioned India and Pakistan, and I'm thinking Africa, and there's it's fascinating to me. Like I said, you're inspiring me. I should, yeah, the Beatles, the Stones, yeah. But check out what these people are doing. Check out what these people are doing. So fascinating stuff.
Well, thanks, John. Yeah, I mean the sources of inspiration are almost they're infinite, aren't
Oh, absolutely. And but the other side of that is they liked our music too. the British invasion and the formation of rock and roll and even classical composers. Ravel was crazy
Mm,
for jazz, and I guess he had like a lot of flat nine, sharp, those kinds
yes, yeah.
of
And Debussy as well,
yes,
absolute groundbreaking compositions. So
yeah,
yeah, it's just yeah, amazing well, that's inspiring as well, isn't it? Just exploring that evolution of music and how everything's developed and fusions of different styles. That's something that's always inspired me, I have to say.
yes.
Mm.
Let's switch gears. I want to ask you about your bass gear, the kind of instrument or instruments you play, and effects and amps and strings and those kinds of things. What are you
Yeah.
playing, and what are you playing it through?
Right. So this is what I'm playing, John. This is my
Oh,
Federa
okay,
five-string bass,
good.
and this is an absolutely amazing instrument. Um, I had it custom made. I was very, very fortunate to get an endorsement deal with Federa in New York City and Brooklyn.
Yep.
And I mean, I have to say, I thought I was fanatical about bass until I met these guys.
Yeah.
So- and the process of creating the instrument was something else. So they started off by sending me photos of blocks of wood, so I could choose the block of ash that the body was going to be carved out of, and then they started sending me videos of blocks of wood.
Wow.
It was just incredible. And then we talk about wood choices and pickups and the fretboard, basically all of the components. And then they've started sending me sound samples. I was listening to this audio, and honestly, these guys, they are just so passionate about what they do,
Yes.
and custom made this bass to my exact requirements. And I really was just thinking about all of the aspects of all the bass guitars I've ever played in the past and getting all of those into one instrument. And so I went to Brooklyn to
Okay. I was
try
gonna,
it out
yeah.
and pick it up. And it was
Well, not till it was done, though.
not till it was done. Exactly,
Oh,
not till it was
so
done.
okay, there's only so much you could. It's kind of like getting a suit and you're getting it
Yes.
tailored or altered, and then you go in like during the process. But in this case, it's not. When it's done, it's done. So certain things can be changed or modified, maybe, but others not so much.
Exactly, John. So I went over to Brooklyn and met the guys, amazing bunch of people there.
Yes.
And then they walked towards me with the bass, my bass. And I was thinking, this is it. And you're absolutely right, John. I was 99.9% sure I was going to absolutely love this instrument. But this was the first time I'd seen it. It's the first time I was ever going to play it. And then I had this flashback. I had this flashback to my youth. So when I was growing up, my granddad, when he retired, he got really into carpentry, and we've got a lot of very talented sculptors and carpenters in the family. If you look through the history, and me and my brother and sister, we'd go to his workshop, and when we stayed with our grandparents, and we'd make something like a wooden ship or a wooden rocket or something. And there I was in the Federa shop, which is a workshop really, where they craft all the instruments. And it was the smell of the wood shavings on the floor, just reminded me of my granddad's workshop. I just thought about my granddad, and then I was back to reality. And then I see the bass come towards me. It was a very emotional moment, and I
Okay.
played the bass. Wow, this is the best bass I've ever played. And it's the best sounding bass I've ever played as well. And I got this emotional rush, and it's the only bass I play now.
Wow.
So I'm
You made
very, very lucky, very, very fortunate.
you made a comment in the previous interview that a few years back would have taken me aback, but it's not so uncommon these days. You said on your 5 string, you don't have a low B, you have a high C. Is that
Yes,
still the
yes.
case?
Yes, it's still the case. Yeah, so instead of the low B, I've got the high C, tenor tuning. And that just works, John, for my style because I play all the melodies and the compositions on the bass, and I play lots of solos. And I just find having access to that higher register really works. It's something I really, really enjoy as well. And if I want to go really, really low, I just stamp on the octave pedal and go an octave low. Sometimes octaves low, but I stopped doing that because amps would explode now and again. So
Well, you never had a hankering for a B string or an F sharp string?
yeah, I mean, I've played, no, I've played basses with low B, and I really enjoy it. I really enjoy it. I think on balance, the top C works best for me, my style of playing, my style of composition. And then of course there's the option of a six string as well with the low B as well.
Yeah.
Um, and even though I've got big hands, I find six strings just sort of slow me down a little bit. So
Mm.
the 5 string, just with the high C, it's the perfect setup and the perfect balance, I think, between speed and getting those high registers as well.
Yeah. You mentioned pickups as part of the sound. What kind of pickups are on this bass?
So I've got the Federa Mike Pope electronics and pickups, and you know they've been working in partnership for decades now, and it's a match made in heaven, and it's just yeah, it's just a great tone with the instrument with those pickups. It's yeah, it just sounds superb, and it's very flexible. I've got 3 band EQ on the bass as well, so you can make lots of adjustments very easily live as well, mid playing if you need to. But I don't need to adjust it that much.
Yeah. Mike's stuff is amazing.
Yes,
Mike Pope. Um,
yes.
so what kind of strings? Is it Federa strings as well?
No, actually, I play. I mean, I've experimented with lots and lots of different strings in the past. Um, and Federa strings are great. Federa strings are really, really great. Um, so I mix it up. I mix it up, John, to be honest. I don't really have a favorite string at the moment.
Okay. What do you play through? What do you use for an amp?
Aguilar.
Aguilar.
Yeah, I've been playing through Aguilar for quite a few years now. And that's sad to say that's a really, really good combination. And I use the AG head, which is very clean, very, very clean, because I play through a lot of effects. Sometimes very, very heavily affected
That was
bass
going to be
tones.
my next question.
Ah, yeah, okay, okay. And so I think what I really need as the sort of foundation for that, as the basis for that, is a really, really clean tone. And what I do, so I'll come on to the effects unit now. I've got a Boss GT10B effects multi-effects unit, which I've been using for a while. And what I do with every single effect, I've got 2 channels, and one channel is my clean tone,
Yeah.
and then the other one is the tone of the effects, and it could just be an envelope filter, or it could be overdrives and heavy distortion, um, and phasers, flanges, etc. So very, very heavily affected sound on the effects channel, but you never lose the bottom ends, and you
Mhm.
never lose the fundamentals of the tone because you've got that clean channel running through constantly.
So you plug it into 2 different inputs in the amp then?
Well, no, it's even easier than that. So I just plug into the one input, and then as soon as your input goes in, the unit splits your signal into two, and you can choose to do whatever you want to both
Wow.
of those 2 signals. And I basically do nothing to one of them, and then whatever I want to do to the other one. So yeah, it's really clever. It works really well. And what you can do, John, actually, is uh, you can output the clean signal and the post effects signal separately, which I have done in the past. So I've had sometimes two monitors on stage, one
Yeah.
with the clean and one with the effects signal. I've just sort of blended it to perfection on stage. So yeah, it's incredible, isn't it? The technology these days.
That is amazing. Uh, let's switch gears again. And
Mm,
I want to ask you about people who want to learn bass, because that's
mm,
what we do primarily at ForBassPlayersOnly.com. And right now,
mm,
I've got students from every state in the US and I think about 50, 60, maybe 70 countries around the world. People coming to For Bass Players Only every day, specifically to learn bass. And these are men and women, and they're not trying to make a career out of music. In fact, I joke, I say most of them are over 40, but a lot of them are older than over 40. Meaning, I've got students in their 50s, 60s, 70s. I've got students in their 80s. And so they want to get together and play some classic rock riffs with their friends. They want to play some blues shuffles or maybe some funk
mm,
R&B. Some are into slapping, some are into jazz and walking bass, but
mm.
most of them really love the classic rock songs from the 60s and 70s. And some of the things that happen to people when they get into their 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s are arthritis or tendonitis or
Mm.
shoulder pain, maybe recovering from surgery, those kinds of things. And I'm just telling you all this to give you a context because I want to let you know who we're talking about primarily, and I want to ask you what advice you could impart to somebody like that who wants to learn to play bass. What should they be thinking about? What kind of goals should they have? What should they be striving for? Anything along those lines.
Well, I think at the heart of it, John, is having fun. Is having fun. And I think finding opportunities to play with other people as well. And even if you don't think you're quite ready for that, go for it anyway. Because I think, it playing on your own is incredible and can be super, super inspiring. But I think when you get in a room with other musicians, that's when some extra layers of magic can happen. And it's a great way to learn, to develop as a musician, and then just making these wonderful human connections, spiritual connections, if as well when you're creating in that collaborative way as well. So I think that's really magical. So I'd encourage people to find opportunities to play with other musicians, but really keeping fun at the center of everything. Um, you mentioned something interesting there, John, around various ailments, and I think it's important. I've got a routine of stretching. So whenever I pick up, or before I pick up the bass, or as I'm picking up the bass, I spend it's about 5 or 6 minutes, and I've got this you know series of hand stretches that I do before I play the bass,
Mhm.
and this kind of thing, and move the fingers around as well, warm up. And then I've got an exercise on the bass, which I play. It's kind of a walking line and some different sort of arpeggio lines, which I'll play really slowly. And I'll really be observing how I'm feeling, and just to make sure I'm fully warmed up before I start playing anything, really fast or demanding or fast. I think that's important as well. And I think, obviously, I'd say two or three other things. Definitely play music you enjoy. Definitely play music you enjoy. Um, Definitely listen to music that perhaps you're less familiar with, and try playing that, because I think there's a whole treasure trove of learning to be had there as well. Um, and I think consistency at the end of the day, as much as you can. I know it's hard, isn't it? Juggling life and various commitments with music, and whether you're doing it, it doesn't matter what level you're doing it at, but just trying to strive for that consistency. And if you can get to the instrument every day,
Yeah,
even if it's just for a few minutes,
make
I
it a
think
habit.
that's probably even better than getting a longer period in, once a week or even once a fortnight.
Absolutely. like a farmer, just slack off all summer, but boy, in the fall we're really gonna. No, I
Yes.
like what you're saying. Make it a habit, and even if you only have 5 or 10 minutes a day, and you
Yeah.
every day, that's much better. So,
Absolutely.
all right.
Absolutely. Just, I guess, final thought, John, as well is, um, try and work on something new. I say play something completely new, completely different.
Yes.
Um, Ideally, every time you pick up the instrument, and it's not going to sound as good or as fluid as some of the material and licks you're more used to, but that's how you can really expand and um, access new ideas and higher realms of fulfillment and self-expression as well. So I think that's something that I've found very beneficial myself.
You remind me of something I used to say in my master classes and webinars and things like that. Actually, you said it. You came to one of my master classes in London. I
Yeah.
don't remember if I said this or not, but I said to the group, I said, okay, when you go to pick up your bass, do you always play the same thing the first time you pick up the instrument?
Mm,
And if you don't believe me, if you don't think you are, then ask your family or ask your neighbors because they'll,
yes.
I love what you're saying. What was it, Miles or somebody said, don't play what you know, play what you don't know.
Mm,
Why would you want to spend time practicing something you can already play? How are you going to learn and grow? Unless you want to, build up technique or speed
mm.
or anything like that. But I love everything you said, Shez.
I've just had another thought, John, as well, and I've shared this with bass students of mine as well over the years. Is make sure you've got as few barriers between you being able to play the instrument as immediately as possible at any given time. So don't have it in a case.
Yeah.
Don't have it under the bed. Have it here on a stand so you can literally pick up and have your amp ready to go. Switch on the amp, plug in, bingo, you're playing. Because sometimes, just psychologically or subconsciously, just the thought or the feeling of having to go through a little few number of steps can be the difference between you getting those valuable 10, 15 minutes in or not. So just have the bass visible, ready for action is what I say.
And the other good thing about it is if you walk past it every day and never pick it up, you're going to notice that it's collecting dust. So maybe that'll give you the kick that you need to
And it's staring at you all the time, making you feel guilty that you're not practicing enough.
mocking you.
Exactly.
Well, you mentioned a bunch of stuff you have coming up, and you mentioned Ronnie Scott's, and you rattled off a list of other venues and places. But other than that, or maybe beyond that, what about the future? I know I interviewed one of the interviews I did with Phil Chen. He says, I've still got a lot of notes left in me, and I see that in you as well. Is there anything else that you're working on, or anything else that you have in the works, or is there anything that I've always wanted to someday I'm gonna anything like that?
It's a great question, John. It's a great question. I think, in terms of creative output, I mean, I record not all, but I record most of my longer practice sessions. And I find after a certain period of time, um, I get into this creative zone where I'm producing music that I've never played in my life before. And that's quite exciting to be able to. And I'll take these recordings and I'll ignore the first bit and I'll fast forward to the point where different things start happening, and then that can be a great source of new ideas, new compositional ideas, and then I work them up into um, mini ideas, and I've got this bank of probably about 10 albums worth of ideas, and then I'll go through now and again. And yeah, that'll be part of the material for upcoming albums, but I always try and major on new music sort of in that at that point in time as well, reflecting sort of where I am in life and how I'm feeling as well. So back to your question. I don't actually have any specific plans. I'm just focusing all of my efforts on Spellbound and sharing that with everybody. And I'm practicing a lot now. I'm practicing a lot, and I'm playing with people like Guthrie Govan. Um, it's a privilege and an honor. It's an experience to be on stage with people like that, and I think that probably adds 10% to the time and effort I spend practicing, which is great. So that's just a great source of inspiration playing with these wonderful, very experienced musicians. So yeah, I think I'll be looking to, produce more albums and really dig deep creatively and altogether, hopefully, well, collaborations that are really, really fascinating to me and hopefully other people as well.
Do you know Steve Lawson? Can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry, I just lost you for a sec, John, but
Oh,
you're back. You're back.
okay. I said, do you know Steve Lawson?
Yes, I do actually.
Okay.
Great guy, great player.
I interviewed him in Germany, actually. It was over 10 years ago. And just some of what you said, I'm trying to remember his whole thing, but I think he does something along the lines of what you were describing. He just records. I don't want to get this wrong, but maybe stuff that he had never played before or never thought of before, and just what comes out and takes what he likes and produces that and puts that out. And am I pretty much on track as far as you understand?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, well, Steve's amazing, and he plays a lot of solo bass, and he uses loopers, and he's got lots of different effects units, which create these immense soundscapes, and he does performances and gigs, which he records, creating brand new music in the here and now, and then releases it. So yeah, it's a really cool concept.
We've been talking about doing a follow-up interview. I don't think 10 years is too soon to do. But at the NAMM show, what was it, about a year and a half ago, uh, my wife had dropped me off and she went wherever she went that day. And then she's in the car and she's trying to find me to pick me up. We were going somewhere. And you know what that, have you ever been to the NAMM show in Anaheim?
I've never been to Nam. I've never been to Nam actually.
Well, it's like tens. It used to be like 130,000 people. Now it's
But,
maybe half that, but it's still a
yeah.
lot of people. And cars and crossing the street, and everybody's
Mm.
there for Nam. And where are you? I'm on the phone, and she's talking to me, and I'm talking to her. And I look up, and there's Steve Lawson just on a street corner. Just hey, how you doing? I just
Oh, that's excellent.
yeah. Hey, I have one last question for you, Shez. If you can imagine, what would you be if you were not a bass player? Something outside of music.
I was going to say guitarist.
Eh,
Oh,
Ed Friedland said a drummer.
really? I love it. This is a great question. I mean, it would have to be something creative. Have to be some sort of creative endeavor. Um, and it's very hard to imagine. Very, very hard to imagine. But I'd love to be able to get good at painting. So I think that would probably be the go-to um, art form in this alternative universe you're talking about, John.
I have a confession to make.
Go for it.
I asked you that question in 2017.
What did I say?
You hesitated for a minute. You said, that's a good question. Well, it would have to be something creative. And then you mulled it over for a minute and you said, maybe a painter. Honest to
Really?
God, you said the same thing. But why did it take you so long to come up with the answer this time? You seem to have already known that.
This is very interesting. This is very interesting. Obviously lost quite a few brain cells since we last spoke then, John. I think that's what that's proven.
You found them though. You found them
Yeah,
back.
I did. Yeah, yeah. There was sort of, yeah, just in the back here. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Shez Raja, the new album is called Spellbound, and it's scheduled for release June 20th,
Mm.
2025. And judging from the previous seven, I'm confident this is going to be awesome as well. How
Well,
did you
thank you
how'd
so
you
much, John.
come up with the title, by the way?
It just came to me in a moment of inspiration.
Yeah, okay. I hope it does really well, and I have every reason to believe it will. Shez, thank you so much. Once again, the album is Spellbound, and it's Shez Raja, and it's scheduled for June 20th, 2025. I know I'm looking forward to hearing it, and I hope you are too. Thank you so much, Shez, and I hope our paths will cross again soon and often.
Thank you so much, John. It's been a real pleasure talking to you as always. Thank you.
The pleasure and the honor is mine, and I'll even spell honor with a U, just respect for
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks, my friend. Take care.
Thanks, John.
Very inspiring man, very inspiring interview. The album is Spellbound, and it came out, I guess I can say now, June 20th, 2025. Check it out. Shez is amazing. If you've ever wanted to learn bass, you should know that right now there are thousands of people inside the For Bass Players Only community, men and women of all ages. And you know what they're doing? They're learning bass. They're having the time of their life playing music that they love. You need to come join them and experience that incredible transformation for yourself. As I always say, you're never too old to groove. I'll be back here next week, same time, same place, with another bass player interview right here at ForBassPlayersOnly.com. In the meantime, I'm John Liebman. Let's play bass.